Hello and welcome to Beyond Design. So in this series of tutorials that we're going to learn, we'll be seeing how to do keying, but currently if you see the output that we have in front over here has lots of spill and all that around the edges of this character, but that's okay because that's something which we'll be covering in the coming sessions. So this series will have 4 parts. Initial part that we're going to learn today is where we'll learn the basic keying, how to basically get the green screen out, okay, and get this output what we can see in front of us. Second session we'll be learning how to treat the spill removal, and after that two sessions that we're going to have, that is session 3 and session 4, we'll be dealing with the edge integration and the color correction, that is matching the foreground to the background. So with that said, let's begin and start the keying. I'll also show you certain don'ts which we have seen people doing time and again whenever they are working with After Effects. They tend to do keying in a very different manner, that is they use one single key light and they complete this thing entirely. But then it may work for some of the footages, but in this footage where you have details like transparent cloth, you have details like hair and all that, it may not work. So let's look at the technique, what we can use, what are the tools that we can use for getting this solution out. But remember, today's output may look unfinished because today we are just going to work in creating the matte and nothing else. Just let me get this thing out of the screen. Okay, it will go off. So let's start, let's begin with this. So I have this file over here which is completely new. There is this girl over here on the screen with a chroma at the background, and you'll see the chroma quality is not that great. There are certain cuts which you can see over here, there are wrinkles available over here, so it's like there is a variation of color in the chroma, so nothing is proper. And this is the situation normally we face whenever we are shooting a chroma. So how to solve this? Now step number 1, always remember, if you are having a good camera, good lighting setup or whatever it is, you'll still have some noise in the footage. Okay, like for example, if I just zoom in over here and I press Alt 1, that is the R channel, you can see there is some noise which is available over here. If you say Alt 2, that is the green channel, it's nothing much is visible, but I think in the blue channel it's quite visible over here. So how do you remove the noise first? The noise or the grain, whatever you want to call it. So first thing is we'll be adding an effect over here called as remove grain. But before we can do that, let's just duplicate this layer so that we can use it for comparison and also for transferring the alpha. So I'll just duplicate the layer. Let me just make this thing no track matte, and I'll hide the layer at the bottom, that is the green chroma layer, and we have this new layer now. So we'll go to effects and we'll search remove grain and we'll add this thing to the footage. Now once you add it to the footage, and let me just come back to my original zoom and also the original channel, that is the RGB channel. Now you'll see there is this preview area available over here. Now be a little careful because the girl over here, the lady over here inside this footage is wearing a white color. On white color, the noise may not be properly visible. So you have to take this preview area and move it to some green portion over here, the chroma portion over here. So that's very simple. Just go over here in the effects area, go to preview region, and you can just shift it in the X. That's a bit too much, and maybe someplace in the Y. Now we'll just zoom into this preview area and let's go to the blue channel. So I'll say Alt 3. Now if you see, and now if I turn the remove grain effect off, you'll see there was grain. Now there is like the grain has got reduced, the noise has got reduced. But then if I want to remove the noise a bit more, this is less of noise but more of pixel, because the footage that I have taken is not an EXR file or a high quality footage, it's a simple MP4 footage. But then you can also use this thing on footages which is having noise, which is having grains on it. So this is the same technique that you can use. And now I can go to noise reduction setting and I can make the noise reduction from 1 to 2. I think it should give me a better output. I think it's much better now. Can you see that? If I just turn this, toggle this on and off. you can see the output. So once you are happy with what you have, or if you want to reduce it more, you can reduce it more. But remember, if you reduce it more, there'll be smudging at the edges, and that's something that we don't want. Now, just change the viewing mode from preview to the final output so that this noise that we have sampled will get applied to the entire footage. So just say final output. It will process, and yes, we have it applied on the entire footage now. You can just check. There is a big difference. Can you see this? This area specifically. Now this area with noise and this area without the noise. So yeah, it's come out quite good. Okay, and this is what I wanted. Now once we are done with the noise reduction, let me just collapse this. Now if you see the green in the back are good, but they can be made better. They can be made more brighter, because the brighter they are, easier for key light to key it off. So we'll be adding a new effect over here, and the effect is called as selective color. I'll just drag and drop this thing on this footage, and I'll go to colors, and I need to basically fine tune the greens. So I'll choose greens over here, and I'll make the cyan has 100%, magenta has -100, yellow has 100, and blacks has 100. And now you'll suddenly see the green is now popping out, and this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted this particular footage to be there, okay, and the colors to be more brighter so that the key light can actually grab it, understand it, and pick it. Okay, so this is what we got. Okay, we reduce the noise, we enhance the color, and you can see a big difference between the chroma screen now. Okay, so it's much easier for key light to identify the color. Now once this thing is done, I'll do one thing. I'll select this layer. No matter there is nothing inside, I'll still pre-compose it. So I'll say Control-Shift-C, and I'll say move all attribute inside this particular composition. I'll name this composition as girl chroma recolored. I'll call it new because I think I have already a composition over here called as recolored. So I'll name this thing as girl chroma recolored new, and see to it this button is on. Move all attribute into new composition so that all the effects which are over here will now go inside the composition. Just say OK now, and you'll see the effect channel is now open for us to work around. And now let's do it in a very amateur fashion, and I have seen people doing this thing a lot. They just take a key light, drag and drop it on this footage, choose the color, and done. Okay, it may work in some of the cases, but in this case it is not going to work. As I explained earlier, there are various variations in color and all that available over here. So if you want to go ahead and create a matte like this, please go ahead, there is no problem with it. But remember one simple thing: whenever you're creating a chroma, and if the shot is very complicated, you cannot do it this way. We have to break down the footage. So what I'll be doing now is, I'll be breaking this footage. I'll be making a chroma key separately for this area. I'll be making a chroma key separately for this area, and I'll be making a chroma key separately for the remaining body part. So let's start doing that. I'll just reduce this key light 1.2. I'll just remove this. So not reduce, but remove this. And let's start by masking this girl. So I'll take my pen tool. I'll see to it the layer is selected. I'll also duplicate this layer and keep so that I can hide it and use it later on. Now I can come over here. Let me just make a very rough mask. You don't need to do rotoscoping. You just need to make a very rough mask. Like this. Okay, and now on this I'll be putting my key light 1.2. Inside this, now people have this habit of working with the final result, and that's something which I'm going to avoid in this particular chapter, because final result will give you a very sharp edge in the chroma. So instead I'll go for something called as intermediate result, which gives you an equally good output. Now I can come to screen color, choose this color over here, and voila, the green is gone. Okay, no matter we have some color bleeding over here at the edges, but that's something that will solve using the spill suppression. So once you have this, there is certain thing that you need to keep in your mind. Let me just remove this, reduce, actually not remove this, but hide this forest pick, and you will see there are certain glitches which are happening. You can see certain blotches of color which is happening on this black color, and this is something that we need to remove. Now for removing this, you can press Alt 4 on the keyboard. That shows you the alpha channel, and now you'll see there is some color over here which is on this black part which we don't want. Okay, also look out for this kind of areas. Can you see this area? There is some holes happening over here. This hole, yeah, because that's the gap of the hand, but there are certain holes which are happening over here, okay, which is on the skin, and that's something that we don't want. We want this area to be completely white. Now how do you fine tune this? Let's start by reducing the blotches over here, and we'll go to something called as screen mat. Press Control on your keyboard, and you have this option called as clip black. Basically we're dealing with the black portion right now, so press Control and just click and drag, and you'll see after some time the blotches have gone. Okay, and the reason why I press Control over here is so that I can get precise control. Otherwise, if you don't do that, and if you just click and drag, it will just jump 1 2 3 4 5 6, and it may mess up the edges. Okay, so you have to be really precise when you're working on this. Press Control and click and drag so that it increases in very small increment. And I think I'm good with this. Maybe I can take it to 1.8 because that gave me a very good output. Same way, now there is this blotches on the white area. For clearing that, we'll be using the clip white. Same way, I'll press Control and reduce this till the time all those blotches don't disappear. Be very careful because it may happen that you may mess up with the detail of the hair. So just be careful on that front. I think this is looking good enough and I'm happy with this. Let's come back. Let's say Alt 4 and we are back. I said don't worry about this green color because anyways that will be reduced by your screen by your despilling. So now let's come to the other part. Let's come to this portion over here, and this time I'll be making a roto for this area so that there is another kind of hair that we can tackle over here. Just come, I'll make a duplicate of this, hide the duplicate, come back to the bottom layer, select this and just make a very simple loose roto. And just see to it this mixes together. I think this is good enough. And now I can come over here and I can say key light 1.2. I can take this and I can choose the color. Once more the same process repeated, just make this thing into intermediate result. And then we'll go over here, press Alt 4 in the alpha channel. Now you'll see there is lot many holes inside the alpha this time. There are a lot less holes on the less blotches on the black area, but white areas do have this. So let's go to screen mat and correct this. Let's press Control on the keyboard and say clip white. Just take it in. We get what we want. I think we are good enough for this. Maybe I can just arrange this thing more better. I think here we're getting what we want. And let's come back, press Alt 4. Okay, don't worry about this green spill, we'll be removing it. So what remains now is the other part of the girl, that's the body part of the girl. So we already have that layer. Just take the layer, go to your roto tool and make a roto, a very loose roto altogether. Okay, so this is what we have got. I can just take up some more area over here, that's okay. We can avoid this altogether. Yeah, and this is giving me a good output. This is how I can arrange this, and then I can take key light 1.2, put it over here. Same thing repeated, just come, take the green. And now, once more press Alt 4 on the keyboard, check the alpha, and we can see there are holes in the alpha now, which you need to reduce. Just go to screen mat, And I don't think so there is any blotches on the black region altogether, but just the white area. So just go to clip white and click and drag so that all this white portion gets repaired. You can break it even more. You can have the hand getting keyed separately, the body getting keyed separately. You can have this part getting keyed separately. So it's like, it's on you how detailed do you want to get into it. And also remember, I'm just keeping this thing to the intermediate result. And now press Alt 4 on the keyboard and we are back. And this is what we have got. Okay, we are not worrying about the green spill right now because it's going to get removed. So what we have done right now is we have broken this particular image into various parts. Okay, and remember also to keep this thing on intermediate result. That's very important. Now just to fine tune all this thing a bit more better, I can use an option called as a key cleaner. So I can just go key cleaner, and to all this different chromas that we have over here, you can just say Control Shift H first of all so that the roto shape is hidden. And I can just say key cleaner and just drag this key cleaner to all these chromas. Give it some time, it will process. Yeah, it's processing. It may take some time because I'm screen recording. And I can click and drag this thing to the other one. And then click and drag this thing to the other one. So this is going to do nothing more than if there are certain things which are not proper, like there were some blotches and all that at the edges of the chroma, it has basically reduced all that. Okay, so now as we saw, instead of making a simple key light on one single footage and then scrunching the value too much, we broke this particular image into 3 different parts. Okay, and this is how we tackled it. So we have 3 different chromas getting solved over here. You have this side of the chroma, the left side of the chroma, the right side of the chroma, and the center body of the girl. Okay, as I said earlier, you can also, if you want, break it even further. Like you can have a chroma only for the hand, you can have a chroma only for this hand, you can have chroma only for this part of the hair, whatever you want to do. Okay, many things that you need to remember is, one very important is keeping the viewing to intermediate result. Don't keep it to final result, because if you keep it to final result, for example, if I just come to this portion and I just make this thing as final result, there'll be a very harsh edge which will happen over here, which we don't want. So just keep it to intermediate result. And now finally, all this different chroma that we have, I'll just pre-compose this. So I'll just select everything and say Control Shift C and name this thing as Chroma Matte Final. Let's call it Girl. So I'll call it Girl Chroma Matte Final. And see to it, you say move all attributes into composition. So everything what we have done gets into a single composition. And now the original girl layer that we have, I'll just duplicate that. And I'll say, now this particular layer or this particular image which is not color corrected will take the alpha from the area where we have created the chroma from, so that the color is getting retained. So I can just come to this girl layer and I can say alpha matte from the girl chroma matte. So what's happening now is the color is retained over here from the original footage, and we have just taken the alpha from the chroma process that we have done. So now if you check it with the forest, definitely there is no integration, but the colors are still better, because if you look at the hair, and if I open this particular image now, can you see that? There is a big difference which is going to happen. So I have retained the original color, and I'm just taking the alpha from the keying process that we have. So this is what we have done in the session. Today we have seen how to make a use of key light for doing chroma keying. We saw how to break it and get the output. In the coming session, we'll be working on the descaling process and matte correction process, but that's something that we'll keep for the coming session. Until next time, thank you.